Hey everybody, welcome to the Do Work LT. We're coming to you from out at my range today, so there's a lot of work going on, excuse the noise. Some major reconstruction of our ranges that was going to take 2 weeks has been going on for about a month. But bear with the beeps and all that stuff. We have good things going on that will help us produce more quality content in the future, which will be great. I can't wait to get back out on our outdoor ranges and do a lot of good work. Before we get into the topic of today, I'd like to invite you to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications for future awesome content. Now, to the topic at hand. We're sitting here in southwestern Ohio today. Beautiful fall day. Actually, it's about, I don't know, maybe 80 degrees, but deer season is on. And in Ohio, that's a pretty big deal, as it is in a lot of states. And we are a state that just a couple of days ago opened our archery season for deer. And that's an exciting time around Ohio. A lot of people, more people than you can imagine, make the trek out into the woods to try to fill their freezers on an annual basis. Now, Ohio is fortunately one of the states that allows for crossbow hunting, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. My choice in crossbows. I spend a lot of time on rifle and on pistol and general marksmanship skills and working a lot of time on the gun. I don't have a huge background in traditional bow-based archery. So I have opted to employ for my hunting needs a crossbow, because fortunately Ohio is one of the states that allows for able-bodied individuals to utilize crossbows for their hunting decisions, and that's really a cool thing. So today we're going to talk about my selection, which is the Ravin R10. If you've watched the progress of Ravin over the years, they've really come out with some pretty groundbreaking designs, and this is a bow that I went to last year, or a crossbow, excuse me, that I went to last year, and I've really appreciated everything it's about. So before, I forget what I was running, it was a much slower, it was about 100 feet per second slower, much larger, much heavier bow, and I decided to go with something that was kind of a smaller, more compact package with a devastating feet per second rating. That was also very low profile. So we'll get into that with the Ravin R10. If you've looked at the Ravin lineup, you've seen the Ravin R10, the Ravin R20, the R29, which up until this year has been pretty much the flagship. This year they came out with something, I forget what it is the RS500 or something along those lines. Now they're pushing at and beyond the 500 feet per second mark. Now, that's a lot, and that's a devastating amount of arrow or bolt-based firepower to use in your hunting needs. These things can run up to, not this one, but several of the Ravin models run up to $3,000-$4,000, which, that's a pretty hefty price point. But I was looking for something that I could get into and have the quality and cool design features that we've grown to recognize in the Ravin lineup without breaking the bank. So this Ravin R10 model comes in around $1,300 and has a lot to offer. So I wanted to sit down with you and kind of show you what it was about. And then I wanted to go over here to the range and show you just a small example of its effective range. Based on that effective range discussion, let's talk about this optic. This is a dual illuminated red-green optic with reticle increments between 20 and 100 yards. So I've been really impressed with this. It's been pretty incredible to watch this thing at the 60-70 yard mark and how effective it is. I took a deer last year with this right around 35-40 yards, and it was effectively a chip shot. This bow, or this crossbow, is super fast, super accurate, and at the 30-40 yard mark, it's a chip shot for this thing. I've set this thing out to 60-70 yards, stabilized obviously, and hit it on point. There's also videos of people sending these things 100 yards with effective hits that could be an ethical and effective harvest, and that's what we want. I was excited about going to a higher feet per second in a package that I could do a lot more with to secure that effective hunting kill, because you want to hit something hard, fast, and precisely to give the most quick and effective result. And that's what I found with this R10. So just briefly, you can look up the R10 and see what it's about pretty easily. Kind of something I wanted to show you first of all is the uncocked cam to cam diameter is something like 9.5 inches, maybe a little bit more. The outside diameter, because it goes a couple more inches, I don't know, it's a little over a foot on the outside extremes of the cam uncocked. And that's a pretty narrow profile when you're moving through the woods and you have this thing shouldered. It doesn't tend to hook up on anything like my old one. My old one was really wide. It was probably 2.5 feet wide from cam to cam uncocked. And obviously if I'm moving through the woods, I'm going to be carrying it uncocked. Unless I guess if I was on a stalk, but I'm not. Generally I'm seated or in a blind, seated in a tree or in a blind on the ground. So I get in, cock it, and wait. So the cool thing about this thing is very low profile, very narrow, as you'll see. I believe it comes in at like 6.8 pounds, which is great. Let's look at the underside of this, because there's a couple of cool features here. If you have this little clip-in section that holds your cocking crank, cock crank. That's a lot. But the cranking mechanism for the gun, I'll show you that, because there are some interesting features built into the Ravens on how to cock the gun, how to uncock the gun without discharging a bolt, which I love. You have to be controlled, and it's something you have to be safe with. This thing is unforgiving if you're not paying attention. But you can use this and safely uncock the gun, or the crossbow, without having to discharge it. Sometimes you'd have to pick up a discharge bolt and send it in the ground, or sometimes people leave out a target and just discharge it into that. That's not really cool, because no one likes sending their broadheads or their hunting heads into a target if not needed. So it comes with this, and it secures nicely into here. You can also remove this, because this is actually a section of pick rail, which cool. It comes with 3 carbon bolts with 100 grain field tips, so you get to put on whatever hunting tip you prefer. But these come with hundreds, so that's a nice target bolt to practice with. So 3 of those in carbon fiber come with the package. This quiver also comes off, so if you are kind of set up in your blind or your stand, you can pull this off. You could pull that off if you want to, and reduce the weight and any encumbrance that you might have on the end of this unit. So once this thing is cocked, it's set to deliver a bolt at about 400 feet per second with an effective range from 0 to 100 yards, and that's pretty terrific. I don't spend enough time on task with hunting that I would need something more significant than the Ravin R10 or delivering more power or what have you. But I know this would serve my needs. If I wanted to take this for something bigger game, then I could clearly do that. It's more than capable of handling the load. Because it's at a 410, or excuse me, a 400 foot per second rating, they have built in a lot of mechanisms to keep your hands safe. I've seen 2 examples of someone getting their fingers up into a Raven And generally, if you get your fingers in front of these strings and have a discharge, your fingers are probably coming off. It's going to be quick and violent. And so when you're operating a crossbow of any make or manufacturer, definitely be safe and be super disciplined with your hand position and your finger position. It's not something to mess around with, and if something goes wrong, it's going to go wrong really quickly and really fast. On the cocking side of this, I've seen some injuries happen because of just losing control of the crankset, and we're gonna give you a quick example of cocking it and uncocking it with the provided crankset. So again, this is the R10 by Ravin. Check it out, and we have more to come. All right, let's take a minute and just show you kind of how we get this thing cocked and ready to go before we go out onto the range. So as I showed you before, there's a kind of a thing here that holds the cocking mechanism. Okay, and if you see here on the side, you'll see an insertion point for this tool that plugs in for cocking it and uncocking it. And back here, a couple of key features you're going to see is a little bit of a trigger mechanism. And I'll talk to you about how that works as we're using it. And then a method by which, this is ambidextrous too, you can hold and control the little trigger mechanism while you are powering it. So this is actually ambidextrous, so you could move it over to the left side if you were left-handed and move this over to your right hand to control with your right hand so that you didn't beat your fingers up. Now, last year I saw someone shoot a video where they had lost control of this mechanism and it spun freely backwards. It beat up their optic, and then it also broke several of their fingers on their left hand that was in the way. So if you don't get your stuff out of the way, again, this can hurt you pretty badly. But something you see down here is the method that slides down on this strap and grabs a hold of your main string. So I'm going to show you cocking it first, and I'm going to show you how it's uncocked, and then we'll go from there because it's an important feature. So here you're just kind of holding on to it, and you see that's moving along the track, moving it back to a point, and then once it's all the way back, it has this little kind of clutch, and then you're done. So this then comes out. So kind of something to notice here is once it's cocked, definitely keep your fingers away. But you can see how truly narrow this crossbow is when it's loaded up and ready to go. Obviously, when this engages with your main spring, or your main string, excuse me, it automatically shifts to safe. You don't want an accidental discharge on a tool like a Ravin crossbow, because you dry fire something like this on accident and it's probably going to start blowing things apart or causing serious injury. So you don't want that. But let's say, for example, because we have it cocked now, let's say we've come out of the field, we had an unsuccessful night, and now it's time to drown our sorrows in a bunch of beer or whiskey. Let's go ahead and uncock this without discharging a bolt into the ground or a target. So let's show you how that would happen. So the first thing I'm going to do is obviously take my handy dandy crank off of the mount on the crossbow. I pay close attention to ensure my fingers are out of the pathway of this crank. I make sure I have a positive contact with the ground. And the first thing I'm going to do is take a little bit of tension, pulling tension with my crank. And then I'm going to push this button back here. Okay? Take a little load off, then push the button. Now I'm ready to gently release the tension of these arms. Now if you let this go, I can actually feel it sometimes. You can feel it if you're offline a little bit, hitting the optic. You just have to control it a little bit better to make sure it doesn't happen. So there is the safe release of all tension on your Ravin crossbow. So cocking, uncocking with this little crank and this wonderful strap system. Once we get out there and we start shooting, I'll show you how this, once it releases the string, we'll show you how this, you push this button and this whole mechanism will track down and engage the string, excuse me, for to reset. Really great design features. I think it's a nicely encapsulated system that allows for the overall safer handling of your crossbow. An amazing feature. These are becoming more common across a broader line of crossbows, but the integrated ambidextrous cocking, uncocking method in the Ravin crossbows, I think is a cool selling point. So that's that. Let's get out on the range. Okay, let's show you how this tracks down to give a little bit of tension, push the button, release it a little bit. This can come off, and then that engages the main string. I keep saying that. Then pulls it all the way to the rear. Clutch starts to slip. Pull it off. Put it in your pocket. Go get ready to send it. All right. 20 yards. Dead nuts. At 20 and 30 yards, these are chip shots. So again, give a little tension, push the trigger, push the release, I should say. Slides right down, engages main string. Pulls it up. The safety is automatically engaged. Slip clutch, remove crank. All right, 30 yards. I do these standing because it's not that far, and this thing's gonna put it right on it. Bullseye. Let's get it set up for 40 and 50 yards, and then we'll push it to 60. All right, we're getting set up for 40 yards, but let's just show you the results at 20 and 30, just standing. Nothing real serious. This is a 6-inch square. So we're not gonna be sad about that shot. It's at 20 yards. Now moving back here to 30 yards. We have another 6-inch square. I'll take that. That will get it done. Let's check out 40, 50, 60. All right, let's see how this looks from 40 yards. All right, top left corner, so right on the edge. But we'll take that. All right, let's see where we hit at 50 yards. Nailed it. Left edge again, but inside the box at 50 yards. We're happy with that. Let's go to 60. All right, we're going 60 yards here to a 6-inch white square. All right, left edge. So picking up a common theme here. It's 60 yards. We're on the left edge of a 6-inch white square. So 60 yards, we're feeling pretty good. How about we push this to 70 just to see what happens? All right, last shot of the day, 70 yards with the Ravin R10 at 400 feet per second. Let's see how this goes. Longest shot I've ever sent here. Dead center. Dead center. Let's go take a look at that. All right. Here we are on a 6-inch square I put together with tape. This is 60 yards, right on that left edge. So we're taking that shot, of course. This, that really beautiful hit right there, is 70 yards with the Ravin R10 Crossbow. Do yourself a favor, check these out. Talk to you soon.